I want this to come out right. This is, I wasn't planning on saying this, but I'm going to say it. This is my 38th Christmas Eve as an ordained pastor. I want to put on I want this to come out with humility. I am not nervous. I'm really not. When I was just starting out at my first wedding, I was so nervous. I was so nervous. And we got through towards the end, and I was so pleased, and I was just so relieved. And the bride and the groom looked at me, and I said, "What?" And she said, "Don't we get to kiss?" I forgot to kiss at the wedding. I want to talk to you tonight about Christmas ornaments. I want to talk to you about the ornaments that you hang on your tree. I also want to talk with you about the people in your life that bring you beauty. They're ornaments. I want to talk with you about the moments in your life that bring you beauty. And I want you to see them as ornaments. We have a lot of cool ones. I'm sure you won't be able to see this up close, all of you, but I want you to see this Santa Claus. It's probably my favorite one in our house. It's a Santa Claus. It's painted by an artist from Jackson, Wyoming. We bought it about 25 years ago when we were in Wyoming. And it's a piece of wood. It's just some piece of wood that some artist found on the ground and took it to his or her studio and turned it into a Santa Claus. And it's not just any Santa Claus. If you could look at it up close after the service, I'll put it up on the price table. And some, in the hands of an artist, the ordinary can be transformed into the extraordinary. And in the hands of the living Spirit of Christ, ordinary people like us can do extraordinary things. Like finding some random piece of tree in the woods. And in the hands of Christ, we can do beautiful things. Beautiful things. I want to talk with you tonight about the ornaments of Christmas. And I want to tell you the true story of my grandfather, Harold Eugene Jones, who died in 1972 when I was 14 years old. He was born in 1905. He died on September 1st, 1972. I have very deep roots in the western Pennsylvania town, Menneson, Pennsylvania. Anybody here ever been to Menneson, Pennsylvania? Okay, I see one, couple hands maybe. For a long time, not anymore, sadly, economically sadly. Menneson it's a city along the Monongahela River. It's in the Mon Valley, and it was a steel mill town. I have very deep roots there as far back as at least my great-great-grandparents. And most of them are buried in the Bell Vernon Cemetery, which is an adjacent town. And we called him Grandpa. I don't know any other family that called their grandfather Grandpa, but my grandfather, as I said, born in 1905. He met my grandmother, Naomi Crawford, in grade school in Menneson. My grandfather and grandmother met in grade school. They got married in 1928. My grandfather was 24 years old, and Naomi was 25. I don't know why they waited so long, but they did. I don't come from a large family. Their only child, my mother, Joy Jones, who died during the Christmas season of 2019 after living a long, very good life. She was their only child, which means my older brother Jeff, me, and my younger sister Jill, knock on wood, all still alive and well. We were my grandfather's only grandchildren. And I didn't know the next part of the story until long after he had died and my mother told me. I knew a little bit about it. I knew that my grandmother Naomi had died in 1954. And it's when my grandfather was 49 years old. My parents were married at the First Methodist Church. Yes, there will be a test at the end of this sermon. My parents were married in February of 1954 at the First Methodist Church in Menneson, Pennsylvania. 3 months after their wedding, my grandmother, Naomi, was diagnosed with a malignant brain tumor. This was 1954, and within 3 weeks, she was dead. And once I was an adult, my mother told her adult children that when Naomi died, my grandfather went into a very, very deep depression. He had to be hospitalized. He couldn't function. My mother told us the story. He was hospitalized in Pittsburgh. My father was a student at Pittsburgh Theological Seminary at the time. They went to visit my grandfather and my mother as they walked out. The man was so brokenhearted that my mother turned to my dad and apparently said, "We'll never see him alive again." This is the most detail I'll go into. The next thing I share with you was the doctors decided to try what they called at the time electroshock therapy. They decided they were going to try it as a last resort. And they did. And it did some good. And he lived from 1954 until he died in 1972. Now, remember, I'm talking about Christmas ornaments. People that bring the beauty of Christmas and the beauty of life into our lives. And I'm giving you permission right now, as I speak, to also think of the people in your life. The people that have gone before us and the people in your life tonight. Maybe even some of them are here with you tonight. I bet some of them are. The people that bring the beauty of Christmas into your life, not only tonight, but every day of your life. Tell them tonight. Tell them tomorrow. Tell them during this sermon, if you want to. So, tonight I want to talk about Christmas ornaments, those people. So I didn't know about any of this until my mother told us he never remarried. Once when it was either first, second, or third grade. It was probably third grade because that was the house that we lived in Marysville at the time. My grandfather used to come over once a month from Menneson and spend the weekend with us. And he was there for the weekend, and he was the kindest man. I was thinking about this week, preparing to be with him tonight. My grandfather, I think, was the kindest man I've ever known. He also started smoking when he was 9 years old. He chain smoked his entire life, Pall Malls, no filter. He used to drive along, my brother and I, my sister never got to experience this. My grandfather would drive my brother and I when we were boys. He'd be driving along the interstate around Pittsburgh and steering the car with his knees, rolling his own cigarettes, because the Pall Malls weren't strong enough for him. The guy made it to 72 years old. I didn't know anything about the pain. I was just a little kid. We took a walk around the block this one particular summer day when he was in town, and I was like this as a kid. I really was. I loved my grandfather. And I could take you to the spot at 206 North Maple Street where we lived in Marysville. I could take you to the exact spot today where we finished our walk. We were standing in front of the house, and I looked at my grandfather and I said, "Grandfather, guess what?" And he said, "What?" And I said, "I love you." And he started to cry. It scared me. I didn't run. We moved on. I didn't understand it at the time, but later I did. He loved Christmas. He loved Christmas. He would show up for Christmas in his 1966 white Pontiac Bonneville. Those cars had humongous trunks. And he would open up that trunk and it'd be filled with gifts for his 3 grandchildren. He used to say to us, we'd go to church at night, Christmas Eve. For those of you new tonight, I'm a Presbyterian preacher's kid. We'd go to church, we'd come home, and he'd say the same thing every year. He'd say, "You kids better get to bed or the old buzzard won't come." And we still say it in my house. We'll say it tonight. Better get to bed or the old buzzard won't come. We heard John tonight. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. And the Word was God. And all things were made through him. There was not anything made that was not made through him. That which was coming into the world was life, and this life was the light of all people. So tonight, I'm inviting you to see yourself as a person of the light, and to give thanks for the loved ones that have gone before us, that were Christmas ornaments in our lives every day. And I'm inviting you to give thanks for those that bring the light of Christmas into your life tonight. The last thing I'll share with you is this. This is a book, The First 50 Years, the story of the National Football League. The action, the heroes, the strategy, the records, 1971 edition. This is one of my Christmas ornaments. You open it up, and it's written, you can tell that his hand was a little shaky, and we didn't know it at the time, but in 9 months, and he was healthy that Christmas, that last Christmas. In 9 months, he would be dead. You open up the book and it says, "Merry Christmas, Jay, from Grandpap, 1971. Christmas ornaments." Amen?
Amen.
Amen.